I was born in Argentina, in Patagonia, and I lived in Patagonia, a city called Neuquén, which is a province also called Neuquén. The capital city is the same as the province, which is against the Chilean border at the north part of Patagonia. So it kind of borders on La Pampa. I grew up in Rio Negro, which is the province. We used to have an apple festival every year, where you could sample all these different apples and buy apple preserves and juices. And there was they crowned an apple queen, and they used to have a big carrozas. And so I was 2 hours east of Bariloche, a town called General Roca. I've been in Canada going on 42 years in July, and I'm a musician. I sing professionally. I'm a sort of a classically trained musician, even though I grew up, like all of us do in Latin America, with a guitar, strumming, and singing folk music. But I've done choral music all my life, and I sing professionally with the Vancouver Chamber Choir. And then I teach singing quite a bit, and I do as much solo work as I can. Vancouver, as beautiful as it is, it's kind of a small town for how many musicians are here. So it's almost a little bit difficult sometimes to find the gigs because there's a lot of quote unquote competition. But I do that, and then I conduct. I have a degree in conducting. Choral conducting from the University of Cincinnati, the Conservatory of Music there. And so that's what I do. I kind of meal-piece, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. I teach, I do clinics, I lead choirs, I do solo work. That's basically sort of my job. And then when I'm not working, I'm in the garden. I love to grow vegetables and just putter around the garden. And lately I kind of took up painting. I've been wanting to do that all my life, but I convinced myself that I couldn't draw. So that sort of kept me away from painting. But I come from a very sort of creative family. My mother and her mother and aunt, they were all incredibly creative, painting and arts and crafts. And so I've sort of been around that kind of creativity all my life. And just last year, I finally decided I really wanted to do something. So I started doing these dot mandala things, where you don't have to draw. You're just creating patterns with dots of different sizes on a canvas or a piece of wood or anything. And then I started using watercolors, and so I'm learning to paint with watercolors. So that's kind of in a nutshell what my life is sort of like these days. People have been really great and appreciating what I do, and it's great. I mean, I'm kind of sharing my journey because I really just started, and basically I'm copying. I go to YouTube and I follow people who show how they do it, and I try to follow and do what they do. So yeah, so far it's been, some things don't turn out and kind of end up in the garbage, and other things turn out really well. But the thing about watercolors is that they're very, very hard to control. With acrylics, basically the paint that you see, the color that you see is what you get. There's, you just paint with that and that's the color and it's okay. But watercolors are very, very subtle, and you kind of have to learn to control the water and how much water, how much paint. So you can imagine the variables there, right? So there's a whole range of how much water you use depending on the effect that you want, how much paint, and I usually started with way too much paint. The nice thing about watercolors is that you can be so subtle and create these really nice, subtle, and sort of fuzzy effects. And then the kind of paper is really important. And I was just reading that paper, the paper, good quality paper, is really, really crucial. So, there's a lot of opportunity for going really wrong with it, So it's a steep learning curve. It was the same thing with my with the mandalas, right? People started started asking if I was selling, and I even had a couple of commissions, So I even set up an Etsy shop, and I figured, oh yeah, I will sell these things, and I probably could, but since I'm not doing it full time, right? I'm not sort of dedicating a lot of time to putting it out there and marketing and stuff. And then I sort of let it go for a bit while I started working on watercolors. And, as I do more and learn and sort of feel more comfortable with it, I probably will sell some stuff because, I have seen what's selling, and occasionally it's like, well, mine's kind of nicer than that for every style. No, I'm not. I left the church a long time ago. I think it might have been, at least 12 years now, maybe 2010 or something like that. Yeah, I worked in the church for many years, and it's a great place for musicians, especially like coming up and sort of, it's a great training place for young musicians, the church, and it's a good job. It's sort of consistent work, and you're always making music and learning new things. Anyway, but I did enough of that, and I decided I was done with those Sunday morning commitments. So I left the church and have been basically doing, freelancing, teaching, singing. It has its drawbacks, right? Because when you're freelance, you always have to hustle and try and find work and gigs. But, at the other end, you own your time and you do whatever you want. And if you want to leave, you leave. And you cancel your lessons or move your lessons, On the other hand, you don't get paid, So when you go on a trip, you basically kind of almost losing twice in a way, right? You have to pay for your expenses, but then there's no income. So there are drawbacks. But so far, I've been doing this for, as long as I've been in Vancouver, which is about 27 years. I can't believe it's been that long. I remember coming here after I graduated from Cincinnati, and I've managed to make a living and pay my rent and have some money to play around a little bit. So far, so good. I managed to make it work.
Living in other places like Toronto, Montreal?
No, too big for me. Too big and busy and dirty and loud. I mean, I've visited. I've been to Toronto many times, and I've friends there, but I don't think I could live there. I find it too big. Even though as a musician, it's a much better place than Vancouver because there's a lot more opportunity. But I like I think I'm a kind of a country girl at heart. I like the slower lifestyle. I like nature, even though I don't go out there a lot. I'm not a hiker. I'm not a biker. I don't ski. But I love all the fauna, the flora. I love the trees and like Vancouver. How beautiful it is, and walking on the dike, and there's lots of beautiful places in Toronto also, but I don't like the big city, basically, And actually, we're entertaining the idea of leaving Vancouver within the next 5 years or so. I mean, we're in the middle of the forest here, wherever you go, right? And then there's so many. Like I said, I love it, but I don't do a lot of it, even though there's tons of places to go and walks and rivers and lakes and mountains and the dike and right, but I don't know. I suppose it's the energy of the place with all that around. It kind of changes sort of the feeling of a place. Whereas here it feels very nature based. When you go east, even Toronto, or even Calgary, it just feels so much more like. Well, Calgary not so much, but Toronto, it's more like it just feels more like a city. More like a concrete place. It has a different aura to it. It's hard to paint the trees and plants and lots of green because, everything looks different and has a different look about it. But that's the other, it doesn't have to be realist, right? It could also be sort of, not abstract. I'm not kind of an abstract person. I'm not at all an abstract person. But it doesn't have to be, I imagine, it doesn't have to look like a picture. But yeah, I'll give it a try. I'll go and find, there's so many nice corners. I'll go and find a nice corner or a view, and I'd love to have a project. I'm usually looking at pictures that I've taken or videos and sort of coming up with my next project. And right now I'm working on a mandala, so I don't have a watercolor project, so I'll do that. Yeah, that would be great. I've been to Japan twice, actually. See, that's one of the things about singing with the Vancouver Chamber Choir. I mean, there used to be a lot more money for travel, and the Chamber Choir used to tour a lot. The choir, sort of as an organization, went all over the world. By the time I joined, I missed some of the big tours through Europe, but I went to Taiwan twice. I've been to Japan twice. We've been to Mexico. That's one nice thing. And next year, there's a tour planned of Finland. We have a new conductor, a new artistic director, and he's from Finland. And he's planning a tour to Finland, so I'm excited about that. I got close. I've been to Estonia. That's something else. Yeah, when I lived in Cincinnati, I had a church job there as a singer, and they did a tour of the Baltic states, and they had a little bit of money, so they paid for the section leaders. My job was to sing in the alto section and lead the section. And so I got paid for that. And when they decided to do a tour of the Baltic states, they actually paid my way there and a few of the other singers, which was wonderful. So I went to Estonia, I went to Latvia, we went to St. Petersburg, I went to Stockholm and to Copenhagen. So, yeah, I've had some really beautiful experience because I was in a choir,
How about Amsterdam?
I've been to Amsterdam just flying through on my way somewhere, and we had a 6-hour layover at the airport, so we went into town. We took the train, my sister and I.
Listen to this and other podcasts on Omar Global Radio, omarglobal.com. From Quebec, Canada, Omar Diaz reported.